we fucking go. Welcome to Evil Dojo. I am your host, the ghost with the most gnosis. Apropos, halitosis, stank flow, you already know this. Dark Mage in the house, what's up? Let me get that Twitch chat up in there. There we go. So, I've got some shit to do. Basically, the big thing I want to get done today, or at least work on, is combat. So one of the first things that we need to do is disable random enemy movement. So at the moment, if I place an enemy down, once they're down, they start moving in random directions, right? So I'm going to disable that for the moment. By disable, what I really mean is we're going to, instead of creating an action move, we're going to create a wait action. So you can see the game is reloaded because we got hot code reloading rolling here. And now if I place an enemy doesn't move anymore, which is a good starting position for me to be able to test what happens when I do that, what happens when I do that, all the other stuff. In previous videos, I've had damage working properly in terms of like the damage animation. But because of the way that the time step occurs in the game world here, I don't want to stack animations because I want everything to be really seamless, and I don't want there to be a lot of lag between different like time steps. So like when you make a move, I don't want the player to have to wait a long time for all of the other entities in the world to make their turns as well. Everyone essentially moves all in the same turn, but the player gets priority because he's the first person to move, or she, or whatever. Got some barking dogs right now. Oh, we're going to try to push through it. Might go off camera for a moment. But other than that, no big deal. If I ever have to go BRB for some general reason other than feeding the dogs or taking Gracie out to go pee-pee, expect to see this on your screen. So I'm not going BRB at the moment yet. I might for a few minutes here. But I want to stay online as long as I can today. I really want to push this thing forward in a significant way. So we disabled enemy movement. Now we can really place as many enemies as we want, and they all just stand still. This is a good position to actually incrementally test and build forward everything that occurs step by step from the time that the player presses the attack key to the enemy actually registering having gotten hit. And the reason we want to do this is because in order to avoid the stacking animation problem, because it's possible that you attack an enemy, they get damaged, but they don't die. And in the same time step, at the same time as the player animating attack, let's say the enemy also attacks. So we want some way for like the damage to like register on screen, but we also want some way to acknowledge that like there's not this staggered effect that's occurring. We might even go back to the staggered effect. I don't know. We're just going to have to play around and see how it feels. Because I'm trying my best not to engineer anything in a way that I'm forced to wedge functionality into the existing system. I want it to be very clean and top down and not really super hacked together. So any opportunities that I see to make generalizations out of existing functions, like for instance, the placing the actual enemy test enemy placement. So we're actually calling a very specific function here called create orc, and this is very much hard coded at the moment. Like we're hard coding in what race of the entity it is that we're creating. We take the created entity and pass it into create sprite group, which this itself like also has a lot of hard coding in terms of deciding what sprite keys we have to access in order to associate the sprite with the entity. So this is something that I'm going to have to work on over time so that we can create a more general create entity function. Because for instance, let's go back. So we have like create entity here, and this is kind of the beginning of that, but like we might have to do very specific selection in terms of what to load and where when we actually do it. So I'm trying to isolate that code into a certain area because it's probably going to get pretty long because planets have a lot of different assets, and I need to have a very general way of associating entity types to their associated graphics. But we'll get there. So testing enemy placement. Moving on to what happens when you actually attack. So there's a handful of conditions where attacks fail. And last time I created this action result object type that allows us to return more dynamic information as to the result of a particular action taken, because I decided true false wasn't good enough, right? And that makes sense. So if all the other preconditions pass, then we check the tile immediately, basically the tile that the player's attacking. If there's no entity there, then obviously there's nothing to attack, so the attack kind of, I believe we specified the fail. I don't think this code follows because, like, if target entity is empty here, then okay, so this checks to see if it was an NPC. So this is a little bit more specific and less generic. So one thing that I'll probably end up doing, so I'm trying not to do too much at one time. I want to be very focused. But at this moment, I'm kind of like bird's eyeing a bunch of different stuff that needs to be done. So really, because a lot of this code is the same as this code up here, this really needs to be tied together, because it shouldn't matter if it's an NPC or the player. Like this code all does the same thing. So I'm gonna find a way to reduce it into one big block as opposed to two big blocks. But if we get down here, then there was no entity. Thank you, Copilot. So that's that. You can actually delete these lines. No drop frames in 10 minutes. That's pretty good at 60 FPS. So if the entity didn't block, then we get here. So this creates action attack. We're not handling attacks at the moment. Yeah, we are. A lot is also kind of hard code. We need to pull it out into like generic function. As a reminder, the world state managed by Lua. So any sort of things that we process down there get passed up to here in the C layer. So in the C layer, as what we're mostly handling is graphics and animation. If the action type was attack, we set a bunch of stuff depending on blah, right? So process action here says it returns a result ID, but I don't think that's accurate anymore, is it? Or no, it does return a result ID, but we have no interface to our results yet, right? So let's take a look at how process action Lua works. Actually, I think we're going to end up restructuring how a lot of that code in lib game works too, because really we should realistically be able to hit all of the actions in one shot without having to step through them this way, and then take the results that get generated and then set all of the animations and stuff appropriately. It's a bit of a heavy lifting task, though. Before I dive into something that heavy, let's continue stepping through. So we process a particular action at a given index, and then we receive literally just an integer. So yeah, so it actually does return this actually returns the action ID. And the action ID is not the actual ID of the action. It's the ID of the actor who performed the action or who requested the action. So action result. So action ID is the ID of the actor. But really, what we want to do is store that so really we want to store that on the actor or on the result, which we do, but instead of returning just the action ID, we want to return index, because this is going to be the index into the action results. But if I am to do a lot of the restructuring I'm talking about doing, then a lot of this is going to go away or go somewhere else, because at the moment we would be processing each action one at a time as opposed to just running through and doing everything all at once. So the whole reason I'm doing this is for combat. So before I dive into any of that, we're going to focus on what we need to do to like properly handle combat. Because we can do it the way that things are at the moment and then restructure things afterwards, and it'll be about the same amount of work. Now, one thing that we're not doing at the moment is attaching damage to this particular object, right? So if we wanted to like hard code something in there, so do something like damage physical, because I do plan on making distinctions. Actually, damage cutting, damage piercing, damage blunt. So back in process action, back in entity attack. So here we're just hard coding in just one damage. We want to be able to see that feedback, because when we go to animate, like for instance, a numerical damage that's going to pop up above, we have to receive that from somewhere in order to generate that texture on the fly, just how I was doing it previously. So we're back in process action. We were currently returning this. Instead, we want to return index. The reason is there's this thing called action results. Remember to create a new interface, constant with game Lua get action results count. So this would directly call that function now. I want to be able to attach this to the debug panel. So Is there? Block, current turn, action. Oh. There we go. Hey, it only added one action result. Oh, we never increment the index. Okay, so this returns index. So we have to update that C code. But where do we get index from? Oh, passed in. Oh yeah, I guess because there's only one entity, there would only be one result, right? So oh, it returns early. Oops. Okay. We should actually call a entity none here. Or better yet, for a moment we can actually comment that out. I never ended up clearing the results array. Error. Maybe I should, oh, that's right. I should actually create a wait action. 6:33. Oh, we definitely want to process that. I don't want that warning to print out all the time. Okay. I'm facing down. And it's not clear that I'm facing down either. Now I'm facing right. So it shows attack successful. So oh yeah, Nikolai, thank you. It's not the first forum, unfortunately. I posted about it on X when it happened to my my inbox. One evening, I sat down in my machine and saw that my Gmail, my personal Gmail, had been flooded with tens of thousands of forum signups, and I took screenshots and showed a little bit of it because someone actually reached out to me on X about it. Actually more than one forum admin reached out wondering what the fuck, and yeah, it makes sense. It's like, well, I wish I knew who's doing it myself. It's very annoying for a lot of people. Very sorry that y'all are going through that. I've never actually used Arch myself. Maybe sometime I should actually sit down and try it out. Yeah, I knew about that, so thanks. But that's, you know, this is a game development stream, not a personal drama stream. I've addressed this, plus if you weren't aware of the GitHub situation, both of these things happen like right back to back, and I'm pretty convinced that someone out there doesn't like me. But that's why I advocate for them to reach out, because maybe we can hash it out. Whatever their beef is, I'm willing to try and squash. But at the end of the day, what I am trying to do on here is actually work on a game, and maybe even help people with code along the way. You're good. You're good. I'm gonna go and refresh the chat though. Good. It's in good faith, so you're cool. Don't worry about it, man. I mean, it was certainly annoying for me to like have to go through my email and like mark all of these things as fucking spam so that spam filter picks them up, right? But also equally annoying that forum admins are having to purge a bunch of like false user registrations, and it's like, oh hey, this one email is signing up tens of thousands of times on multiple different forums. I say multiple, I mean tens of thousands of forums probably. A lot of them Chinese, a lot of them English, a lot of them I saw at least one other language in there. I forget what though. It's like, come on, man, I got better things I'm trying to do here. Why you want to disrupt? I'm not saying you, the chatter, I'm saying whoever is trying to fuck with me with these emails. Oh yeah, no, a lot of people on IRC think this shit is incredibly funny. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. Well, sitting, but you know what I mean. So we need an interface to the results array, but I'm also trying to figure out why we're only getting one action result being assigned when we have. Oh, and no, that was because we were returning early for the none, so that should actually be fixed now. Hell yeah. Now, my one thing that I want is like more music that I've either created myself or gotten permission from to use, so that people got something nice in the background. Okay, yeah, so the results count is now proportional to the number of entities on the screen because we're actually having 4 actions process every turn now. So that's good. So every time I add a new entity, we're going to get another action result, but 4 out of the 5 of them are going to be none actions taken, right? But we're still want to return a result from that because it's possible that because in the future I want to be able to have certain actions trigger other actions so that there can be like a stacking effect in this way. Appreciate everybody who comes to chill out and hang out, man. I'm always encouraging of people to ask questions and chat amongst themselves about different topics or things that might be at the moment going on the screen. Like, really, this game I'm making for myself in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I know that I'm not the only person who enjoys games in this department, or presentation style, say. I'm an old school dude. I'm an old dude. At this point, I'm going to be 40 in fucking a year and 1 month, right? So I thought to myself, I got to get off my ass and start, really working on this thing because I had something cooking over a decade ago on iOS called Project A that was very close to this in a number of different things, but it was the code base got pretty wonky, just me trying to figure shit out for the first time, and it got to a point where updating it was very difficult, not to mention the person paying me stopped paying me. So I've been very thrown off since then, but one of the big upgrades was actually purchasing an asset pack by a dude who created something called Mini Fantasy, and That's where like these tiles come from, right? Like this is just a little test feature. I can just drop a little big block of different randomly generated or randomly pulled tiles that I've loaded in. And over time, we're going to have a lot of different assets in here. So with the so now that we actually have the results to access, we are going to want a number of different functions in libgameLua in order to access the different properties on a particular results object. So, like, we have all these different action results types, and then there's the action results function, which actually returns a dictionary or a table, depending on which language you're working in, of different keys, and most of these are integer values. So long as I provide the key and the index into the action result, we should be able to access arbitrary values that we have returned for a given action. So let's const int libgame lua get action result. So actually we're going to do index and then const char key. We're going to copy this over to our libgamelua.c. It calls get action result, which we have to write over in libgamelua, or sorry, in init.lua. I really need to come up with a better name for that. It's hard to say. Init.lua. 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 So I think this makes sense. So now that we have that, just a demo. So I don't have a plan exactly how I'm using this yet, nor have I done like the cool pop-up text work. This is a demo though. Last attack damage. Oops. See, that's not quite right. If we assume that the player's input is always going to end up as the first action in the action results, then constant last attack damage equals libgame Lua get action result L 1 damage cutting. So now down here, last attack damage. Uh-oh. Something didn't build. Is there a reason it crashed? Oh, shit. Oh yeah, so if we make any changes to libgame Lua, the hot reload doesn't work right. Uh-oh. What? Y'all watched me write that just now. Right here. L index key. L index key. Right there. Right here. Already saying it's not defined. I'm gonna laugh whenever I figure this out. Is it complaining because it's I thought constant char would be right. generally speaking, it's been pretty easy to just write a new function and have it come in. I wonder if it has to do with the ceiling thing. I wouldn't think so. Syntactically, there was nothing wrong with it having the type definition on the line above it. Oh, we hadn't saved it yet. Oh, duh. Jesus. I guess we want to hold on to the results of the previous turn until input for the next turn begins. At the least, I mean, we're going to eventually start doing some cool logging so that you'll have like a history of actions and stuff like that. Oh, damages. Last attack damage. Oh, I got those in the wrong locations. Or is it like adding one to it every time? I wasn't expecting it to increment like that. Oh, I got them in the wrong location. Whoops. Okay. That explains everything. There we go. Okay. Now we actually are successfully reading in what the previous turn's attack damage was. To further prove that I'm doing this, I'm going to now make the damage random. Instead of it just being like 1. See the random number changing. That's good. This is a great step forward. Now, what we really need next is we're going to need a few things. We need some sort of visual indicator that the enemy's been damaged. But we also have to be able to have this visual indicator work if the enemy is also attacking. We want to be able to do the animation and the time step all in one shot without having to stack animations if possible. And my dog just woke up. Perfect timing. Hi, honey. Don't want to meet my dog? We gotta go outside to do a pee-pee. Turn the light on. Hi, Grace. This is Gracie. She's a sweetie. Say hi to everybody, Grace. She ain't gonna say hi, but I'm just talking. Big yawn. Oh, she's so good. Yeah, we're gonna step out front, and when I get back, we're gonna check this code in, and I'm gonna figure out what the fuck else I'm doing. Okay, I am back. And I got my baby some ice cream. Thank you for saying she's cute. She is a cute dog. She's also an old dog. But she's a super trooper considering all things. Okay. Now we got some sort of damaged feedback going. I want to explore what it looks like if we were to make the enemy flash red ourselves. The sprite pack that I purchased has a damage animation for different entities such as the orc and the hero. But like I have explained the last couple streams, um, in order to keep this smooth time step, all of the animations have to kind of occur at the same time. So there might be some cases where animation duration for a particular animation is longer than the time step. So we're gonna have to see how this goes. I might end up having to add back in animation stacking. As it is, we would have to do this once per sprite sheet anyway. Not sure what the best way to approach is going to be. That's why we have to do a little exploration. But before we do anything, I have to check in my code. So back into libgame. Okay, so animation or sprite damage flashing. So I have a little experience playing around with libsdl and raylib's both implementations of texture color modulating. So the idea is that when you load in a texture, you can pass in a RGB value that essentially gets masked on top of the texture. So like if you have something and you mask it red, you can make it look red. So as an example of this, we have this textures.txt, and in previous game coding streams, I've loaded in textures using a file, using this format similar to this. But what I did there was I attached an RGB value to each one of these things so that you could just dynamically have arbitrary texture mods in the loading process, like from the get-go. So raylib has, I believe, a way to do this. So if we have these two separate textures going for us, then we can just switch between which one's currently displayed. And this may or may not look good. And the other problem too is we probably have to do it for, like, for instance, every single instance of a sprite that we have. So, like, I keep thinking, damn it, I'm gonna have to do animation stacking. I want everything to move in the same time step, but, like, for instance, the whole ordering problem, right? Is you have, we'll take this scenario. You have the enemy immediately next to the player. Player always gets to move first, right? Every time step the enemy is currently waiting. But let's say the enemy were to attack to the left. So I would attack first, and ultimately what we would want to happen is some indication that the enemy's been damaged during that time step. But if that enemy gets damaged and decides also that they want to attack and they haven't been killed, then in a perfect world, the damage animation would play out, followed by the orc attacking animation. And I'm thinking the only way I'm going to be able to implement that is if in the processing of actions, we start queuing up animations on each entity, so that when we iterate over all of the world entities updating their animation state, we play out one animation or one sprite, like it loops once, and then we immediately go to another animation. And I believe we can just create some sort of array to do this, or some sort of queue. My dog wants to talk to me for a moment, so hold on. Okay. I'm just thinking out loud right now and really realizing, oh, hey, we got some drop frames for the first time. All stream, finally. Amazing I've been able to ride 60 FPS for so long on this bandwidth. I don't know exactly what tripped off the downward spikes during the day, but here we are. So not bad, not bad. Maybe color modulation is not the best solution. maybe I really do have to find a way to start stacking animations. What do y'all think? Should we try to limit the animations to one animation per time step? Or do we want multiple animations to unfold? So like, for instance, player attacks enemy, enemy gets damaged, enemy attacks player, player gets damaged. So there would be 4 ultimate animations and basically 2 that would be occurring at the same time. So each entity, like the, because the game state's already updated at this point. As each action gets processed and the result returned, or rather stored in the action's result array, it's really the action result array where things kind of like need to process, right? Like, I mean, we do process action, and actually maybe we do need to leave it like this in order to properly do it, but we get the result ID and we know what action is taken because we have access to which index it is in the action array as well. So for the action side of things, there's the setting of that animation where we set that, oh, the player's attacking, so we set his attack animation. Then to determine that we need to set the enemy damage animation, we'd have to access the action result array. Because if the attack failed, we wouldn't want to show that the enemy was damaged, right? Like, so like for instance, they swing and miss. So just thinking out loud still. So there is the processing of the action, right? Like this whole function is process turn action, right? So it's like one action at a time. So there's the whole setting of the animation for the action, which is where like down here we set that, oh, the action type was attack. We set the human attack animation. So I'm just thinking, after this if statement, so maybe we should really break this out into another function, keep things really clean. Are you done, Grace? Great. You ate a lot of ice cream just now. Okay. Wait. Get over here. Let's see. So so down here we would have like code that manages, you know, because each index in the action array maps to a result in the result array at the same location. So if the attack was successful, we have the target entity ID. We're able to grab that entity's sprite and set it to the damage sprite. In addition to that, we can also grab how much damage was inflicted and then draw a dynamic thing that pops up above the enemy's head. So when we when we go back, like, so at this point, like, this would be part of that one-time step. But how would we know that we would need to stack animations? Because the big problem that I was facing with having to separate out all of these animations was the world state was updating so quickly that it was like speeding through all of these and not actually processing each animation. So one solution here, once I kind of have this skeleton structure in place, is that for each entity, we have a list of animations. Like, for instance, we directly set which animation per entity right here. So if instead of doing it here, each entity has a queue of pending animations that they have to process, then we could just instead add the animation here for that entity, right? So at the end of processing all the turn actions, instead of having set the animations here, we will set them later when we step through the list of pending animations per entity. So I think that's the plan. My dog wants some loving, and I honestly need to start eating earlier in the day. Coffee is a motherfucker. But that means I have to go to the grocery store, get some healthy foods to go along with my unhealthy foods. That way I'm happy and properly what's the word I'm looking for? Nutrientized. Like I get my nutrients. I'm thinking of like some hybrid word of like energized and nutrients for some reason. But I think the next stream today, I'll probably not be talking as much. I will be focusing more on implementation. I think that's it. We are going to go back to the idea of stacking entity animations, but we're not going to be staggering the processing of the turn, because when we actually tried doing that, it was just fucking slow. And we can deal with everything happening all at once, because then the game will actually feel fast. And if there's pending animations, they really won't take like that long to actually process. That's the goal. That's the plan. So thank you for joining, everyone. Glad I got a little bit of stuff kind of rolling here. All right. Take it easy.